Please welcome our first guest to the stage. Some of you might call him a Summerslam main eventer. Others might just refer to him as a warrior, a Scottish warrior. Ladies and gentlemen, Drew McIntyre. I can't believe he's even that handsome in person. Yeah. Come have a seat. You know, it is amazing when it's intimate like this and you're so close to them, they all cheer for you. When it's an arena and there's some distance, they feel much more comfortable booing and cheering for the other guy.
No, they mostly cheer me. Like sometimes these days they chant Punk's name initially, then I point out why he's a dick, and they go, "Oh yeah, he's a dick. We like Drew."
That is true. In the process of the Drew McIntyre CM Punk saga, at what point, and maybe you've just never gotten there, did you realize that there were no sort of boundaries on how far you could push this thing in terms of what you could and couldn't say?
I've never for 1 second questioned anything I've said, be it on the microphone, in an interview, on social media. I don't think twice. I'm a grown-ass man. If I feel something, I'll say it. In the past, I would have done the same, but when it comes to Punk, these are my genuine feelings, and I won't hold back. And if you've got a problem with it, I was told it was over 21, by the way.
Yeah. You know, people say that this story with you and Punk goes back to January, but I think it goes back further. You know, when CM Punk returned to the WWE at Survivor Series, we remember it was a historical moment as a WWE fan. But a couple of the things that everybody talked about after that happened. The expression on Seth Rollins' face and you angrily storming out of that match. Was that CM Punk related?
All right, I've talked about this not that long ago. Not publicly, literally in a private conversation there. I'll give you this much. If you're genuinely upset with somebody and genuinely don't like somebody, but are trying to remain professional as possible with a worldwide audience watching, or after the show they have cameras, so it's still a worldwide audience, would you leave the arena to avoid a scene, or would you stand there like a child shouting from a distance? When you could, if you hated them that much, you would walk those 10 steps and punch them in their stupid face. Just think about it that way for a second.
Enough said. I think so. This story does go back at least until November, if not beyond November.
It goes way before. It goes back to my first run in WWE. I've alluded to certain things constantly. I've still not told those stories. Maybe I won't, but there are feelings that go back that far. There are opportunities that were prevented directly involving Punk. And I know he saw me as a threat when I was younger. He adversely affected my momentum. I won't go into details right now. Maybe we'll cover it on the show eventually. Maybe I'll talk about it eventually, but those feelings are very real. That's why it feels real. And now I've taken the road I've taken. I had to get fired. He was a guy that was given everything at the time. Literally, what can we do for you to make you happy? The guy could not be pleased. He took his ball, he went home, he sat in his arse for years. I had to get fired, reinvent myself, work my arse off, work my way back to the top, and the prick thinks he can come back and take my spot. He can think again. The guy is an absolute asshole.
I think the evolution of Drew McIntyre continues to be like one of the more fascinating long-term wrestling stories ever, because it's the story of a character, but it's the story of you as a human being, that for a long time, that first part of that story was the story, right? That this is a guy who was literally called the future. This is the guy. This is my pick. And then it didn't work out, and he had to bust his ass. He had to prove to the world that I deserved to be here. And when you came back, you earned everything that you got. Then it went past a point where now you're in a place where you have to defend that spot. And I feel like that's the Drew that we're seeing now.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that you've not been seeing the real Drew all along. Like, I react to what's happening around me, and I always speak my mind. And with the Punk stuff, obviously there's the real feelings going on there, but for a lot of the fans that have kind of turned on me, pretty short-term memories, who was perhaps there for him during the most difficult of times. And I'm proud of those difficult times. I would never take credit. As a company, when the world shut down, we pushed ahead. While some people went home. And we made sure the world had an escape during that time. And I was thankfully the one leading the charge and trying to show everybody you can throw anything against the wall, see what sticks, and let's give the world an escape. And I would always do whatever I was asked of me, no matter what. I'd work myself to the bone. I caused myself to be constantly hurting and almost be divorced multiple times, putting the company and the fans first, always. And yeah, people have short-term memories, and that hurts sometimes, but at the same time, it doesn't deter me. I want what's best for the future of the company. Even if now, with my new deal, it allows me some more time with my family, it still means I'm working nonstop for the fans, for the betterment of the future of this company. I said to Seth that on Monday, as much as we don't like each other sometimes, it's a professional rivalry when it comes to someone like Punk. No matter what he says, he's Charles Manson, he's in it for himself, he's poison, and he's not about the future of this place and it being a productive, good place. It's about what can I get out of it.
Was that those feelings, when they finally came out on television, I feel like it's the thing that brought you back to that place that you were in January of 2020. Because, I mean, people, those of us who were there to witness it, remember in January of 2020, you were the top guy because it was an undeniable thing. We all felt it. You felt it. Everything felt right. And then you ended up on this road, and I feel like you had to come to that. I don't know if you had to come to the realization. We almost had to come to the realization that those moments aren't just handed back. Like, you don't just get to have the moment again. Once the fans come back, once everything, it's like, what we'll see. And I feel like the fact that now people are saying, this is the best Drew McIntyre, says a lot. Do you think that, was it a struggle for you to be, I don't want to say be allowed, but to get these feelings out on television, to go, no, this is what I want to say into a microphone. I feel these things, and I can't just keep smiling.
Yeah, there's truth there for sure. There was a period creatively where, I wasn't 100% content and didn't feel that I could put myself 100% into it. I always try to find the realism, even in situations that aren't got any realism whatsoever in them. And there was a point, it was over a year ago now, where I was thinking about taking a break. I've talked about this publicly. It's not like I'm got an exclusive here or anything. But,
oh, man.
But my wife's sister passed, and it was a tough time for our family. Her mother was struggling. She was struggling. And I said, for the first time in my life, I'm going to take some time off at the end of this contract and just be with the family. Then I'll come back. But I was at school my whole life. I was signed from university straight to WWE at 21. I've been running full-time, get fired, came back. I've never had time off in my entire life, and I'm 39 years old, and I'm going to give it to the family. And, as time went on, they started, finding their way again, learning to live without her here. And that's about the time, I started getting more opportunities to explore the character / be more 100% me. Not that I wasn't before, but I felt like there was a certain wall I would go to, and I did put on that stupid smile, even at times where I didn't want to put on that stupid big smile a few times, and it didn't match the story. I was just told, put on that big stupid smile. And I don't know if anyone's seen Howard Stern's movie Private Parts, But there's a particular moment in the movie where he says he's not going all the way, and his wife's like, "You're not going all the way." That's kind of what I had one day. I was like, "Man, I'm just kind of holding back." And my wife even said, "Like, really, in what way? Like, you kind of say what you want. It seems like maybe not on TV, but in the interviews, etc." And I was, "That's what I mean. I just got to be myself, 100% real all the time. If I don't like something, say it. And if people boo me, I'm supposed to be a good guy. Who cares? That isn't the real world. The real world isn't black and white. It's shades of gray. I'm going to be my real, authentic self. And if people don't like it in the crowd, okay, as long as they make noise. If people don't like it backstage, I don't care, as long as I'm not affecting the company in a negative way. And if the boys don't like it, they can suck it."
Yeah. And I think it has been really effective because as a person who's been a fan as long as I've been a fan, when you're watching a promo segment, right, and you kind of know what you're watching, and that cadence starts to get broken where you and whoever you're talking to aren't pacing yourselves. You're not giving yourself space. You're sniping at each other.
Yep.
There's this uncomfortable feeling that you're like, oh, this is what it sounds like when people fight. And that uncomfortable feeling becomes this, like, I want to see this because it's real.
Yeah, that feeling gets me excited now. Like especially when I'm on the microphone, if somebody kind of jumps in because they feel it, I can see it in their eyes. I'm like, they're feeling it. I'm going to come right back at them. Like, I love talking trash. I'm from the UK. Like what you've seen on my social media, that's not suddenly Drew just started talking this way. I've always had that within me, and that's how we talk to most of our friends. Like, half those insults you see on there. And I love the fact that I get that giddy feeling now. If somebody kind of says something back to me, I can see the fire in their eyes, and I'm like, all right, okay, corral. You shoot me with your best, I'll shoot you with my best. Let's see who's left standing, and the winner is going to be the fans.
Oh. Has there been a moment where you're in there and somebody hits you with something, and you're like, oof, I don't know if I'm going to get this one?
Not that I'm not going to get this one. I feel like I've always got a response, but I will give one to Punk. You know, he said the one line during the one promo about the chosen one.
Oof.
And,
yeah, that was... Oof.
Yeah, so I had to make a decision in the moment. Do I come back with something and potentially have a negative effect on the company, just what's going on right now in the public eye? Or do I take it elsewhere? And Chicago, he's a babyface. It's the right business decision. So I made a choice in that moment not to say something. And I've got a couple in mind. I would say them because I'll make the dirt sheets, but I had a couple right there. And I made the choice to do the best thing for the company during that time.
Man, it is so impressive to hear it from that perspective because you realize that you're firing with 9 different parts of your brain all at the same time, and those complicated decisions where I've got to do something that feels real to me, also furthers the story, also is ultimately good for the company, also is not just about me, but about both of these characters and where they're going, and it all has to happen in an instant.
It's just like, you know, you and your radio show, you've got to have everything fire at once. Or imagine if you're doing stand-up, the idea of something like that is terrifying to me, but I've been in wrestling professionally since I was 15 years old. And as shocking as it might be to people, the way I look in my job, I'm an introvert. I'm most comfortable when there's a red light that turns on. Like, if I'm, even right now, I get a little bit nervous, but if I'm in a wrestling setting, if I'm in a ring, that's my safe zone. As soon as I get in that ring, as soon as I see that red light of any kind, I just did, a bit part in I could talk about it now, the Batista movie, The Killer's Game. You'll probably start seeing, hopefully advertised. Please go see it.
Yes.
But I got there, and it's a new thing, and I was, I'm really nervous. And David mentioned to me, he's nervous too. And I was like, how can you be nervous as good as you are? You still get nervous? He's like, yeah. I said, don't worry, you'll be fine. And as soon as I saw that red light go on, I just relaxed instantly. I went, that's my safe zone. I see a red light, I calm down right away, and that's when my brain works the best.
Wow. Look, if I looked like you in a pair of tights, I'd probably feel most comfortable.
Yeah, it's basically everyone's worst nightmare is my relaxing time. Everyone's like, oh my God, I'm in front of a crowd in my underwear. I'm like, oh God, I wish I was in front of a crowd in my underwear.
Yeah. Oh, thank God I'm in a stadium full of people staring at me.
It's my safe space.
So you talked about your new deal. We saw, speaking of social media, we saw a moment from this sort of celebration of that new deal. What's it like to receive the gift of a sword from the final boss, from The Rock?
That's pretty mental.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the whole process was wild, and, you know, Triple H and Nick Khan were amazing, helping getting the deal done, which was best for the company and my family, and, you know, Rock been involved as well in sending the sword and a very nice note. But it's times like that I think back to, 2014. You know, we did the show in Scotland, and the first day of media on the Wednesday when I landed was 10 years to the day where I got fired. And, you know, you think back to those times and what a difference 10 years can make. And, you know, that's how my first run kind of got started. I wasn't big, angry Scottish guy because I'm foreign anymore that no one could relate to except the one guy in Scotland going, I'm big and angry and hairy. And I get that guy. We finally told my real story about overcoming all I've overcame. And, you know, every time I get knocked down, I get back up and push forward. And I always try and put that message out there, that no matter how much you get knocked down, you can dust yourself off, keep pushing forward as long as you're accountable to the person in the mirror. Put everything you can into what you want to achieve, that you'll absolutely achieve anything you want.
That's great advice.
And as much as I can be a troll online, don't listen to the bullshit negativity in social media.
Yeah, well, easy for you to say.
I can't imagine being at school now. Like, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I talk to kids a lot.
Yeah.
You know, we get to do a lot of cool things with WWE. I'm lucky to be global ambassador with Special Olympics and all these great causes. But I tell everybody, just please, 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 like, try not to pay attention to that negativity. And it's hard sometimes, especially if it's something that affects you. And, oh, that one got me. And you think about it, but you just got to try and push it to the side, try and put the phone down for a little bit, even though Drew McIntyre is always on his phone. Apparently he's not. He has a laugh, he fucks it off, then he continues with his life. Like, you really got to go out and just try and enjoy the world, because realistically, life is so short relative to time. We're all gone soon, so you got to make the most of the time we got.
I mean, that's the best advice. And I've had that experience, I'm sure you have too, where there's something about that Twitter feed updating where if you're not careful, it becomes your whole world because it surrounds you. And then the minute you put the phone down and if you just go outside and take the dog for a walk, you go, oh, this is the real world. That stuff stayed in the house with my phone. That's not even happening.
It's not real, and maybe it's not even a real person. It's one of these bots, whatever the hell. So I know when I'm doing it too much, because thankfully, my wife's been such a big part of my journey. I'm so obsessed with wrestling, frighteningly obsessed, and she still won't watch it unless she has to watch it because I'm on her. She's coming to the show on Saturday. She's like, oh, I guess I'll watch Drew's match or whatever. But that allows me that balance in my life where, as obsessed as I am, she forces me to try and find a middle ground. Or if she sees me on the phone too much, it's right, you're doing it too much. Get rid of that phone and try and enjoy life. So she has brought balance to this crazy, crazy wrestling machine.
It is a dangerous thing for you specifically, though, because what Drew McIntyre has become, now you're on your phone and she says, put it away, and you go, no, I'm at work.
Yeah, but that's
I'm doing my
easy.
job.
I can look at it for a second, see something, and go, I've got to reply right away, or my buddy will message me, or there'll be someone that happens to be in a seat in front of me on a flight. My brain goes, "Pooh, this could be fun." Like, my mind works fast with shithousery.
Does your wife know, without giving too much away, does your wife know when she's a part of moments that those moments may not continue to be as happy as they appear at the time? Or do you not allow her to know that so that she can be as disappointed as one would be?
I mean, she's pretty informed. She's going to feel the same, whatever happens. At WrestleMania is the only time I saw some real emotion, because I told her, hey, I might do something involving you and my brother John. She was like, what do you mean? And both of them were terrified. And this was real close to the show that I was like, I feel like I might tweet during the match.
Yes.
They were like, I was like, what do you mean? I was like, me and my mate were talking. And I got a buddy from the UK. And, half the time the stuff online is me and him just talking shit to each other. And we're like, I should say this online. It'd be funny because it makes us laugh. It'd probably offend everyone else, which would be even funnier. But it was just, like, that's been the thing. And just imagine somebody tweet you during a match. And I wouldn't do it if it affects the match. But if it can happen organically, I will take the phone in my brother's hand and I will tweet. So tell him he has to have it ready to go at all times that I'm nearby. So I heard afterwards they're both out there. One, scared of being on camera. Two, my brother's hand shaking the whole time. And I finally found the right moment where Seth was going in with the back injury. I gave him the overhead suplex on the floor. So he was taking the big cell. We needed time to recover, which organically allowed time for me to go, give me the phone to tweet. And then it blew up to the crazy numbers it got. And anytime I see anybody tweeting during like a different sport or something now, like, yeah, trendsetter. Social media trendsetter. That's something I never thought I'd say about myself. Social media guy. I always made it very clear, though, I'm not your average troll. I'll rip you apart online, then I'll step behind the keyboard, then I'll beat your ass, and then if I wasn't married, I'd take your girl too. Hashtag not your average troll.
Yeah, honestly, as far as taking the girl, it's enough for them to just know you could. I won't, but I could.
Oh, I'm a nice guy.
Yeah.
And I'm married. She'd beat my ass.
That was also, tweeting during the match, because tweeting had become such a part of the Drew McIntyre character that with all that stuff, you get to a WrestleMania title match, and it's, okay, this is the climax of the story. How far can we go? And it's like, boom, if you were ever going to find that, like, not only am I going to take this story with Seth and hit the top, the whole thing that I've been doing with this new identity on Twitter, I'm going to hit the top here as well.
Oh, yeah. And it wasn't like it was planned out like a week in advance. Like,
right.
Wow, I'm totally going to do this. It was during the day, during a workout, suggested, then thought about, then messaging my wife and brother in the crowd. Then I think I saw a couple of people, and I remember saying it to Rhea, and she was like, you should totally do that. I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about it. And then we're on first, and then actually doing it. It's not like it was well thought out. And that's how most things in this industry go. It's just, this feels pretty good. Let's do it. And if it screws up, I'll take the slap in the wrist. Half the time my wrist is black and blue from all the slaps anyway these days. And it's week to week. We'll go to the next week, and we'll make it right. But more land than don't.
How do you, especially as somebody who is a lifelong wrestling fan, it has to feel so good when something lands perfectly. And especially this year, there have been so many matches, segments that have landed perfectly for you, except they're also very personal. They're also very anger-driven. So you can't have a hint of that on you. You can't, like, the minute, if anybody sensed you took pride in a back and forth going well, it would kill the fact that it went well. How do you hide that, like, little kid in you that is living his dream? Is it because you're just such a big man that little kid has no room to get out?
I mean, we're just so week to week. My thing right now is just every week I want to try and top myself and top the segments we've done and keep evolving the character because of the nature of the WWE right now. That we're not kind of car crash storylines at times that last 3 weeks and then take a wild direction. It's very much like a TV show should be, except like every TV show has its seasons for 12 episodes, whatever. We're 52 weeks a year. Like, as the Bloodline kind of proved to everybody, we can develop these layered characters over a long period of time that people can get truly invested in and know them at a deep emotional level. And that's something that someone who really knows who they are can truly benefit from with our creative team, obviously led by Hunter. But the performer has to know exactly who they are to take advantage of it. And I know exactly who I am. And this run this year, specifically last year, getting into this year, has felt like when I was in the independents and I truly found myself and I could go and grab a mic on any show and be myself. And then when I came back to WWE, I felt like I had to be a certain way for a while until probably now, where I know we can truly go all the way, and the creative team is going to go all the way with you if we can enhance these characters and make people feel, because that's what our industry is making people feel, have that emotional connection. And that's probably the most pride I take, is this particular run we're talking about that people have felt a whole bunch of times. Like, fuck, that Drew segment really made me feel something. Even if it was pissed off, then I'm happy. Yeah,
and I think we all have, throughout all these Drew segments, felt that way. I also think that it's amazing and something that we don't think about, because like you said, it is so week to week, and there is so much happening. Like, it's not, things don't feel stretched. right? It's just like, boom, then this, then this, then this. And you don't realize unless you take a step back that, I mean, for the first time in years and years and years, this match that we're getting this weekend has been built for 7 months with a guy who couldn't get in the ring.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's happened since Austin.
The preview match, you know, the build-up video they play before matches better be like an hour long. We could probably do a feature-length movie they could release on Friday about the past 7 months, which is mostly me talking 90% of the time and Punk sitting on his ass. I mean, I can just be thankful that, let's talk about something topical since Deadpool and Wolverine's pretty big right now.
Yeah.
You know, a torn tricep takes about 3-4 months to recover from. Thankfully, Punk is like, when it comes to recovering, the opposite of Wolverine. It allowed me to really take this story all the way. Topical.
I don't recall ever hearing a more backhanded compliment. But I think there was one buried in there somewhere.
That'll end up online.
No. Has that process been at all intimidating? Like, at any point, do you look at a calendar and go, "Oh, we've got to maintain." Like, when you see, "Oh, they're into this," the night after WrestleMania, "Oh, they are into this," we've got to maintain it. Is that an intimidating thing, or do you just go, next week has to be better, and then the next week has to be better?
It would have been in the past, but just knowing and trusting our creative process now, myself as a performer, as much crap as I give Punk, rightfully so. You know, he does know this industry. His brain is his gift, psychotic as it is. And yeah, that's something in the past I've been really worried about, keeping that momentum, but just knowing the process and trusting the process now with the team that we have. I know we can keep elevating, and sometimes I get told, maybe save this for, you know, another week or whatever, where we'd have to do it all in this week. I'm thinking, no, I'll do it this week, and then I'll top it next week. That's my job, is to keep elevating. And when we got to Monday there, I was like, man, we're there already. Like, we don't really need this. This is just some ketchup on the table. Everything is perfectly set, but I might as well crush Punk on the mic again and just prove I'm better, and I did.
So there is no, and this may be a foolish question, I feel like you've answered it, but there is no part of you, because I thought an interesting part of the segment on Monday was Punk pointing out that being in a CM Punk story, because he's such a big star, is a big deal for anybody. And that was a point that he made not only toward Seth, but toward you. Like, the idea that without anything else, CM Punk's first singles match in over 10 years, CM Punk's first singles Summerslam match, all of it puts whoever he's up against in a huge spot. Does that occur to you at all, or do you think that that's kind of a fallacy?
That's one way to look at it, because he's right. I never lie. He is a gigantic name. But at the same time, I would say to him, and I had killed him enough on the mic, I didn't need to kill him anymore. Been out for 7 months, as big a name as he is, if it was anybody else in my position that couldn't do their job like me or didn't have the same feelings I had, did I not make him and keep him relevant and justify the big check that he's been making the whole time, so people are actually excited to see him come back and have this gigantic match on a stadium show? Does it not work both ways? Egotistical prick.
So I was watching the WrestleMania, behind the curtain documentary, where they were kind of, going through the whole process of.
Oh yeah, I saw myself exactly 0 times on that. Pretty sure I won the world title. During that, I was involved in a little capacity for one clip.
You did win, and I do want to ask you about that moment, but I guess maybe this is why I found myself having questions about you, because it wasn't featured prominently, but. we don't need to assume anymore. We learn that the original plan is Rock Roman Reigns. We learn the original plan was Seth Rollins versus CM Punk. Do you have any idea what the original Drew McIntyre plan was for WrestleMania?
I was told ideas, and my reply was the same every single time. I'm going to be in the world title match. I'm going to force it. And it was by that time, by Royal Rumble, by January, I was already at the point where I said, I'm not holding back anymore. I knew at that point, it's one thing to look the way I look. No one can really grow to 6'5" and 280 pounds very easily and be able to do the things I can do in the ring and wrestled as long as I've wrestled. But from a character perspective, I knew when I completed the whole puzzle and had that not give a fuck attitude, I kept telling the writers, I'm going to be in the world title match. I'm going to be in the world title match. Don't tell me any of your ideas. I'm going to be in the world title match.
Wow. Which is amazing, because that means the Punk story is deeper, continues to go deeper, because if he was the one penciled in, that means that you were saying, yeah, I don't care what you've got penciled in. That's my spot.
Yeah.
I'm going to be
like
the one.
I mentioned earlier, just going to come back to the company after all this time and leapfrog all the guys I've been putting the work for all these years, namely this guy who gave so much willingly. Go f*** yourself.
Yes. Was there a moment, because as fleeting as it was when you won the world title at WrestleMania, you still won the world title at WrestleMania, and you had that moment in the ring, and you held the title, and you got the reaction, and the match was, and I don't think that, I think that people should not forget that regardless of a cash-in, there was a pretty remarkable world heavyweight title match that happened on that show. Was there that singular moment when you're in the ring where you go, yeah, I told you so? You know, it's 4 years removed from WrestleMania 36, and there you are, not because moments get given back, but because just like, to an extent, when you got fired and had to build back, that 2020 got snatched away. You had to build, and here you are, 2024, with everybody going, yep, that's who should be in there with it, and you holding it going, I agree. Yep. How did it feel?
Amazing. For it all to come together the way it did. I remember at Elimination Chamber, kind of curious which way it was going to go, but I feel like I'm doing the best work here to justify and story-wise makes sense to be in that world title match. We don't take anything for granted. And McIntyre keeps getting screwed left and right, and that's part of the fun of the journey. But that win at Elimination Chamber was such a cool feeling as well. So many top names in there. And when you win a chamber, you got a portion of Cody's pyro budget, and it went on for about 20 minutes when I won it. But to go through the journey from January to Mania, and then have the match with Seth, and he's one of my greatest rivals and opponents, win the match, that was all very, very real. And it felt real because it is real, and if it ever feels real with me, it's because it is real. When I got that title and I had the moment and I looked at it and the people were chanting, you deserve it. And at this time, instead of holding the title and it's silence in a performance center, and I'm kind of having that private moment I'd have in the hotel room later when the adrenaline left me in front of the world because it's so quiet. I'm having the adrenaline-filled moment of winning the world title, and I lock eyes with Seth, who's also telling me, you deserve it, and we've been through so much together, like I mentioned, professional rivals. And then, coolest of all, being able to present the title to my wife, who's been such a big part of my journey and deserves it, even though she doesn't care about a piece of metal necessarily. She cares that her husband worked so hard and didn't just become the kind of wrestler you could become. She doesn't care about that part. Hopefully the fans care about that, and I care about that, but she cares that I became the type of man she believed I could be. And she deserved that moment with the title, and all of that was 100% real before we went back to business.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. And if you go back and watch, I think you can feel that. And it does, as a fan, it makes you hungry to see something like that again. You said that you had that sort of Howard moment of going, I think I just need to be real. I know you think I've been real, but I've been holding back. Was there, in the movie, it was while he was doing the live read, and he was admitting that he had lied about the advertisement. Was there a moment right after that aha? Like, was there a first moment in the ring where you said something and all of a sudden, yep, that's the feeling. Yeah, that's what it is.
You know, I bet there was, but I just can't pinpoint it. Maybe if I went back, I could find it. But there was a period, and it was, you know, when Hunter kind of took charge and I started feeling like, you know, we're going to stick to what we talk about. And kind of, if you're trusted, we'll give you a little bit. And if you do well, you can get a little more. And that's how it should be, is earning that trust. And it was definitely during that time. And it was, I don't think it was necessarily in the ring, if I really think about it. I think it was at home and just being like, screw it, I just need to go all the way with this. And if it works, then cool, we'll all celebrate. And if it doesn't work, what's the worst that can happen? I get fired. And then at least I did it my way.
Yeah.
So there'll be a point, I just couldn't pinpoint it, but I guarantee it was probably at home. But it was because of the system we have now and believing I could really go all the way and do this properly. And like I mentioned, the Bloodline story, that proved this could be done. It could be done like an episodic show that it is, not like Sopranos and all these shows that, you know, have X amount of episodes each season. We're literally 52 weeks a year. We should be able to create the most deep layered characters on planet Earth with the amount of TV time we have, and now we have that opportunity. And after the past 3 years, we're reaping the rewards, looking across Raw and SmackDown. And even, you know, in NXT, so many people are getting over, and so many people, you know who they are. And before, it wasn't necessarily like that. And it wasn't the worst thing for me, because I would end up with like 6 segments or whatever, because thankfully I was one of the trusted guys. But you need more than like 3 people to rely on. And now we have an whole army of superstars that are getting over or are over.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, too, and this is why, you know, one of the rules on the podcast is everything counts. Because I think that as much as it feels like, yeah, no duh, I feel like it's unique to the era that we're in. Because for the first time, I feel like when you watch the show, that everything is spelled out. So if it's your first time watching, and there's more new fans now, I think, than there has been in 20 years. Like, it's amazing the amount of new fans that I meet, and it's also amazing to me the amount of new fans that become hardcore fans instantly. They've never watched wrestling before. Now they're watching every single week. But I think a part of that, and for those of us that have been watching for years, is that stuff like what you were saying happens where, well, this character has depth in the sense that he's been on television for years. He said a thing 2 years ago. He had this altercation 2 years ago. Why wouldn't that come into play when it hits over here? Yep. And so all of a sudden, this like weird nerdiness that we all have for wrestling, where we're paying attention to every single detail, it pays off. Yeah. And it's like we should be paying attention to every single detail.
Yeah, and as a performer and as a human being, it feels pretty good. When told in the past, no one remembers that. But it all started for me, I believe, when I walked out on Jey Uso with this turn, and people were like, why would you do that to Jey? We cheer for him now? Like, Bloodline, they screwed me over, it beat me nearly to death. Yeah. They were on SmackDown, he showed up on Raw. Cody's magical trading powers, I don't know how he got them, but he moved them to Raw. Have you ever heard of PTSD and trauma? These are real human things and things we can explore now. And once I kind of started laying it out to people, they were like, oh, I guess I can see that. I was like, guess you're not human too. But as a performer, it's awesome, to reach in the past and pull from it, and fans to go, oh, yeah, I remember that. And okay, I see his point now, but it's fun to do this thing and say that silly word, which is fun. But at the same time, maybe this guy, even though I'm a good guy, I might have an issue with that guy. That's just human beings. Yeah, it is great that, like, my 7-year-old son is sitting there just, yeeting his head off. And then he goes, why would Drew be mad at Jey Uso? And it's like, well, because Jey and Roman and blah, blah, blah. And you can explain it to the 7-year-old. It was Solo. Like, he's the one that did it in Cardiff. I was like, well, yeah, because I took out Jimmy and Jay the week before, wiped out the whole bloodline, and the elders sent Solo, pay attention, Marks. Yeah. Commit 100 crimes, you're not there on the night because I took you out, but you're innocent, brother.
By the way, everything counts, and pay attention, Marks, is exactly the same thing, just phrased differently.
I'm going to probably tweet that this weekend.
Yeah. I mean, it is just a cool space to be in when you can justify the actions that you take so much so that, like, if somebody goes, well, you're the heel, you're the villain, you can tell them, explain to me how.
I do, constantly. I sat down and win the debate instantly. Because I also get a degree in criminology, so I'll win every time. That's what the Punk, my favorite thing about the Punk story, and it's every story, is in the criminal court and in the courtroom, all you need to do is prove beyond reasonable doubt somebody's guilty. So I take my evidence, or maybe do your own research, go online, look at testimony from other wrestlers, look at stories from the past about Drew McIntyre and things I do in the ring, out the ring, things people have said about me. Then look at CM Punk, then just think for 1 second, I wonder who's guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Is it Drew or the prick over there with this mountain of evidence against him? Not just the hat rack and McIntyre's neck here.
I mean, you guys have, it is so I was able to bring my son to a show a couple months ago. And, you know, I brought him backstage to meet some of the superstars. One of the superstars he got to meet was Drew McIntyre. And, you know, I mean, Drew looks like a superstar, you know? And so, you know, my little son is just looking at him with these wide eyes. And I go, and this is backstage, everyone's chill, you know, it's just a hang. And I go, Drew, this is my son. He's a big fan of yours. And just like that, Drew goes, well, he should be. I'm the only one making sense on the show. And it's
Got a bright kid.
By the way, did we all notice the apparel on Drew McIntyre? Yeah.
I got one of these for Wade Barrett online. I was buying some fun gimmick shirts, and I was like, oh, I got to get Wade one of those, but I was so jealous. I need to get one for myself. Like, if you see Wade's Twitter, every Royal Rumble for years now, his dream is for Papa Shango to be in the Royal Rumble.
I mean, I remember when they did that, I think it was a Broken Skull Sessions, when the Godfather said, yeah, there was a whole pitch to bring Papa Shango back in the Attitude Era. And I went, we missed a second run of Papa Shango?
There's still time. He looks great. He's freaking huge. Everyone now has gotten smaller. When I first arrived, I was like one of the kind of average sized guys. Now I'm like one of the giants. So he's still a giant. He could still go. More importantly, character. Papa Shango.
Yeah.
Let's bring him back.
I mean,
get it over.
I mean, I attended SummerSlam 92 in person in Wembley Stadium. And the thing that I might remember more than Brett and Davey, more than Macho and Warrior, is being terrified of that Papa Shango entrance.
Yeah. I still get flashbacks to being a kid and like when the feet were on fire and stuff.
Yeah.
And, like I'd have nightmares about it every night.
Yeah.
We could get a whole new generation could be terrified of Papa Shango.
It is wild, though, as much as Papa Shango deserves all that credit, that was 1992, and here we are in 2024, and there is an entire generation of children that will be terrified on Saturday when Drew McIntyre walks to the ring ready to tear CM Punk limb from limb.
They'll be excited.
You think so? Even the kids?
The younger generation, I don't know about, in the 20s and 30s, whatever, but the younger generation are pretty smart. Like your kid, they get it. They've listened to me closely, unlike everybody else. Now, like, Drew's a good guy. They're going to wipe out this stupid Punk guy that showed up and tried to take his spot. And he'll be done with him. Finally, he can go and sell some T-shirts because it's all he's good at.
Do you know how much I would love it if a little kid said he showed up and tried to take his spot? I'd be like, you're the best. Where were you when you came up with the line? Because I feel like the whole thing that we're going to see at SummerSlam is the nucleus is this line. I prayed for it to happen, and it did. When that entered into your head, do you remember that moment?
Yeah, I think it was I prayed for this and it happened. But I actually went a step further, and between Triple H and I, we got it where we feel like we wouldn't.
You went a step further.
A lot of people, yeah. So I had it a little further than that, and Triple H dialed me back slightly, and we landed there.
That's why it's great to trust that relationship, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. There's certain things I'm like, okay, I will go all the way, but at the same time, let me just run this by the man himself.
Well, I'll tell you, Drew, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming out here. I think it's so cool that nobody here knew you were going to be here, but when I asked the room, what's the main event on Saturday? They said Punk and Drew.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said Punk and Drew.
That's cool. Personal stories. That's cool. Everything we're talking about now, the deep layered characters, the storytelling, the way the company is now, it's awesome that it's working to that level. That y'all feel that way. So thank you. That means a lot after the work that's been put in.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, let's give Drew McIntyre a huge round of applause. Thank you so much, dude. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Keep it going for Drew McIntyre. Look at that.